Moon Studios delivered one of the best games in the Xbox One library and of the Metroidvania genre in 2015 with Ori and the Blind Forest, and soon they'll be bringing more of that magic and beauty with its sequel. Ori and the Will of the Wisps looks beautiful and exhilarating, and so far, it seems like it's going to improve upon its predecessor in truly meaningful ways. Obviously, we're excited to get our hands on it, and as we gear up for its imminent launch, in this feature we'll be talking about a few key pieces of information of the game that you need to know about. So without further ado, let's dive right in. Setup. Given how crucial and impactful the story was in Blind Forest, fans are more than a little curious to know what the central narrative conceit is going to be in its sequel, but Moon Studios have been keeping that information pretty close to their chest. But though they haven't revealed much about the game, they have promised an emotional narrative experience. It has been confirmed that the game will take players beyond the boundaries of the Nibble Forest, which was the setting of the first game, as players unravel the truth about the Lost Ones and unravel the mysteries surrounding Ori's destiny. Map. Given that Ori and the Will of the Wisps will see Ori traveling to the world outside of the forest, you can expect to see it feature a much larger map than the first game. Some locations will be returning, but there will be a host of new ones as well, and they'll range across a variety of different kinds of environments, from icy caves and swamps to other much more sinister locations teeming with new and more dangerous threats. Expect to see a lot more environmental diversity. Weapons. Ori and the Blind Forest combat was perhaps one of the game's most major and very few weaknesses, but the sequel is making several upgrades on that front. One way it'll be doing that will be allowing players to equip a variety of different weapons. Weapons that can be used in combat include a fast-swinging spirit sword, a slow but strong hammer, a bow for ranged combat, a spirit bomb, and another slow and powerful projectile weapon, also for ranged combat. Combat abilities. Players will also have access to various abilities that can be used in combat. At any given time, 3 of these can be equipped to 3 different face buttons and can provide both offensive and defensive advantages. When it comes to abilities, the developers have cited Diablo as an influence for this system, with its primary purpose being to encourage players to tailor their playstyle in different ways. Shards. Similar to fellow Metroidvania icon Hollow Knight, Ori and the Will of the Wisps also features a new shard system, which in theory should provide greater depth to the new abilities. Players can find shards scattered throughout the game's world and can equip 4 shards in total. These shards can provide various unique advantages, such as providing a compass that always points the player's next goal, or giving players a triple jump ability, or increasing weapon damage at the cost of lower defense, just to name a few. Enemies. Enemy design is something else that Moon Studios seems to be focusing more on in Will of the Wisps, and we don't just mean visually. Supposedly, enemies will now have varied movesets and arsenals of offensive abilities, and a big part of the combat will be players being required to read their patterns and attacks and deal strikes to their weak points more effectively. It remains to be seen just how widely this will be applied to even the more common enemies in the game, but so far it definitely sounds promising. Replayability. It becomes clear in context of all of the improvements being made to the game's combat, the build variety and greater freedom for players to tailor Ori's progression the way that they see fit is a big focus in Will of the Wisps. That, in turn, should lead to a greater replayability, as players define their playstyles in different ways. New movement improvements. Various improvements have also been made to the movement and traversal mechanics in the sequel. Various moves from the first game will make a return, of course, but as you'd expect, several new ones are also being added. One of these will allow players to use a grappling hook, letting Ori swing through environments. More movement improvements. On top of the movement improvements we just discussed, there are a few other similar improvements that Moon Studios have talked about. For instance, Ori also has a new burrow ability that allows players to dive through sand and reach new areas. Jumping back out of the sand after diving also provides players with a boosted jump, giving access to higher areas. Exploration. Exploration is a crucial part of any Metroidvania title, and though Blind Forest was by no means lacking in that area, the sequel is going to make even further upgrades. Players will now have greater freedom to explore, so that if you should ever get stuck, you'll have more freedom to explore other areas, gain new skills and abilities, and then return to have a better chance at progressing forward. NPCs. Blind Forest was a pretty lonely experience in terms of how many other characters you met throughout its runtime, but Will of the Wisps is truly expanding its world. It will, as such, feature many different NPCs, some of which will even serve as vendors that you can purchase things from, while some will even hand out side quests for you to complete. Spirit Trials. Ori and the Will of the Wisps will also have an asynchronous multiplayer option thanks to its Spirit Trials, which will be scattered throughout the game's world. These are time trials that see players racing through a specific course, using Ori's abilities and skills to get through the course as quickly as possible. Players' data will be uploaded online, allowing you to compete with other players' ghosts to beat their times. Xbox One X enhancements. Given that this is a game being made under the Xbox Game Studios umbrella, it goes without saying that Moon Studios will be leveraging the Xbox One X's more powerful hardware. Though there are not too many details revealed about the enhancements so far, it has been confirmed that the game will run in 4K on the One X. No Switch version planned. Moon Studios and Microsoft took many people by surprise when they released Ori and the Blind Forest on the Switch, but don't expect its sequel to follow in those footsteps. Microsoft have made it clear that the first game came out on the Switch because it was something that Moon Studios, who, after all, are an independent entity, wanted. That said, Will of the Wisps is going to release only on Xbox One and PC. Well, for now at any rate. You never know, so keep your fingers crossed, Switch owners. And that about does it for this video. If you enjoyed what you watched and want to see more from Gaming Bolt, you can always hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell icon next to it. That way you will never miss any of our videos.